Welcome back to the next video. The first video we showed you I showed you how to create a local notification. We created a button, we clicked on a button and we got a notification. Ta-da, fancy. Well, with Android we have to use, there's different ways, but it seems to be a central way that that Google has in place is to use the Firebase, which is owned by them, to send out communications. Doesn't mean that we have to use Firebase as an interface, so the other students could potentially use their screen as well. And within the API, we could write, but we're going to use Firebase as the medium in order to transmit messages out. So what we're going to do here is set up a token. So first and foremost, ensure that in Android Studio that you have this connected. This will make your life easier. Add an account if you have to. I already have my account set up, but what will happen here is it'll bring over this window. You choose what your account you want. I already have my account set up, so it should work fine. So you want to ensure that you have that. I'm going to hit cancel because I'm good. Yeah, sure. But we want to use that for Firebase purposes so that we can connect to it. So let's get and connect to it. So what I'm going to do here is I already have my account added, but I'll just re-add it for purposes. So I'll hit this. I'm going to bring up all this information. I'll hit allow. Alright, it says I'm sharing it, fine. Which I was sharing already, but I just wanted to kind of show you what it was. Next step is I'm going to click on tools and I'm going to choose Firebase. And we have a slew of different options that we could use here. But for what we're trying to do in this video is actually I'll show you something right here. This add mob. I used this in the past. You could do advertisement. So if you're creating an app with games or whatever, you want to throw some advertisement in there, you can. That's how people make their money. But in the most part, I'm going to choose cloud messaging and click on that. And I'm going to choose set up Fire cloud-based messaging. So we have three options. We're going to do connect to Firebase. Your app is already connected to Family House. All right. Well, that's going to be a problem because that's not what I want here. All right. So let's hit sync. Firebase, create it and connect it locally to your module app. So typically what will happen, and I'll show you what will happen, is when you do that for the first time, I'm trying to remember what happens here. Oh, I thought I had a screenshot of what happens. I don't. So what typically happens when you do that, I'll bring up a screen here, and the screen will say, do you want to create a new Firebase or do you want to connect to an existing one? So an existing one will be any of the Firebases that you have in place. So you'll click create new, and that's what I originally did. So I'm just linked up to that. The second option is add FCM to your app. So it'll probably already have it, which this right here just adds information to your Gradle. So I'll accept changes. And there we go. So now I'm going to hide this out of the way. So we're connected. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my Gradle and I'm going to go under module app right here. Firebase messaging right now 17.3.4 is the latest and greatest. So that inserts that information in for us. But we do need to add a couple items. We need to add a dependency. So what I'm going to do is come down here and do define. I'm going to say Firebase version and equals, and that is 17.3.4 that we currently have there. And then down here I need to use implement because we're going to implement that version. So implementation, and I'll do com.google.firebase messaging, and then I'll put in $signs. I'll put Firebase version. just like that. And you'll get this. You may get this sync button here. I'll just hit sync. Just loads everything up. All right. Typo in Word. Did I spell it wrong? Nope, that's fine. All right, cool. Cool beans. So let's go over to activity here. There's a couple things I want to do. We'll come back to this because we need to change some stuff around first. So let's go to layout. I had it open right here. So we want to change this around. Well, I'm thinking about it, and then I'll come back to that in a minute. Gotta do things a little sideways here. So we will do text view. We want to change this around a little bit. So we're changing it from the text view. We're still going to have this information here. We're going to change the ID, and we're going to change it to, you could call it anything. I'm going to call it text view token. Because this video, what we're going to do here is learn how to capture the token that we need. This token can be a way that we could pass the token to our database. So for example, we could make a web service call. Our API will then save the token in our MySQL backend database, and we can use that token when we send out messages to those users, so we can keep track of that. So that's what we're trying to simply accomplish here, but it's a work in progress. So right now we're going to set up this token. We're going to remove this information here. Perfect. And this is pretty good, so I'm going to save that. This right here, you notice how it's blowing up. So we're just going to get rid of it. Okay. So we'll keep that as a goner for the most part. Okay. Because we don't need it anymore. But now we need to add something in place of that right here. So this is going to be an instance ID that we're going to capture. This instance ID, let's see here. It's going to capture the, it's going to be a way to capture the token. So it's going to be a way that we could get the token from Firebase, and then for now we're going to display it on the screen just to show that we're able to capture the token. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with that. So, oops, there we go. So we will say Firebase instance ID, picks it up immediately. Dot, we want to get the instance, and then we want to get the instance ID. And then we want to add on complete listener because we want it to listen to it. And we're going to say on complete listener by instant ID result. And it creates that override. Okay. So what we want to do here is grab this task that comes in. So we'll say if task dot is successful. So if it's successful, so we should have this right here. And then we want to come down here and do this right now. Okay, so this is the first part. We're going to create a conditional statement here. This is, hey, if it's successful, do this, else blow up, basically, get an error message, whatever the case is. So we added the text view on the drawable, so now we need to define it somewhere, because right now we can't define it. So let's import the library that we're going to use. So I'm going to do an import. We're going to do Android .widget. Did I spell it wrong? Yes. .widget, there we go. .text view. Perfect. So that'll import, and this is not, we're not using it, but we will use it here shortly. The next thing that we want to do is we need to declare it. So I'm going to do a private text view right there, and we'll just call it text view, just like that. Perfect. All right. So now we need to add it to our source code, which was down here. So what we can easily say here is we can say, because we needed to declare it, so that what we want to do here is, let me go back to the layout. That's where you'll find me. I'm looking for it. We want to be able to display it on the screen, so we want to define that. All right. So we'll set up a string and call it token equals task dot get result, and we'll get the token. Okay. And then we'll grab our text view dot and we'll set the text. And nothing fancy here. We'll just say token colon, and then we'll add it in with our variable or string. Simple like that. Now, what we want to do is set up for failure in case it does blow up. We need to put some type of message here. So we can say text view dot set text, and we can pass in task dot get exception. Okay, dot get message right there. And I think we need another. No, that's fine. Okay, cool. But we need another one. Let's see. Did I miss anything? I don't think I did. Let's see if it runs. Oh, build successful, so that's a good sign. And where are we at? Oh, it's right here. Well, that's not a good sign. Let me close this out real quick. Let's run her again. Yeah. Waiting for it to start up. All right, it just took a second. And there she is. There's our token, provides it there, so that's good. So that shows us that we did our token properly. You know what? There is something missing because it did blow up at first. So something just doesn't seem right. Let's run it again. You know what? Oh, you know what? That was the wrong one. That was my other window. I have two of these opened up, so that didn't work. All right, so something's missing. So let me look at the code here. We have text view. We have, I know what it is. We don't have a find, like we had a find view by ID before. We're missing that. So, geez, that's why. So we need to find a resource. So we need to say text view equals find view by ID, and then we can say resource.id.text view token. I think this is it. All right, let's run it now. See, I had two windows going, two screens, and I was pulling the other one up. So let's see if it works. All right, it worked now. So we were missing this because it wasn't able to find a resource. But as you see here, the token came up. So this is good. So now we've, first thing that we did is we figure out how to create a local notification, and that worked. Second, we figure out how to use the capture token. So this token, all these pieces of the puzzle will play a role in us doing our notifications for Android, and then we'll switch over to iOS. Okay, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.